Alcatraz. The very name evokes images of unyielding stone, formidable currents, and an impenetrable fortress. Known as the Rock, this federal penitentiary in San Francisco Bay was designed to hold America's most dangerous criminals, men for whom conventional prisons were deemed insufficient. Its isolation and maximum security measures cultivated a legend: Alcatraz was inescapable. For decades, this belief held firm, a testament to the prison's formidable reputation and the harsh realities of the bay's treacherous waters. But in 1962, three men dared to challenge this myth, orchestrating a prison break that would forever etch their names into the annals of criminal legend. Perched on a rocky island 1.5 miles offshore, Alcatraz presented a natural barrier in addition to its man-made defenses. The frigid, shark-infested waters of the bay, coupled with strong, unpredictable currents, were considered as effective a deterrent as any guard tower or barbed wire fence. Inside, a strict regimen, constant surveillance, and the complete absence of privacy ensured prisoners remained subservient. For the men incarcerated there, Alcatraz represented the absolute end of the line, a place where hope was a luxury and escape an impossible dream. This was the environment Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers found themselves in. At the heart of the escape plan was Frank Morris, a man with a genius-level IQ and a long history of petty crimes and prison breaks. Transferred to Alcatraz in 1960, Morris was known for his cunning and methodical approach to problem-solving. He was not a man to be easily contained, and the perceived invincibility of Alcatraz likely served as a challenge to his intellect. Morris quickly began to observe the prison's routines, its weaknesses, and the subtle possibilities that might exist within its seemingly impregnable walls. His intelligence, combined with his criminal experience, made him the ideal architect for an audacious escape. Joining Morris were brothers John and Clarence Anglin, two bank robbers known for their repeated attempts to break out of various correctional facilities. Hailing from a large, impoverished family in Georgia, the Anglins were no strangers to life on the run or behind bars. They were resourceful, physically strong, and possessed a deep desire for freedom that mirrored Morris's own. Transferred to Alcatraz for their escape attempts from other prisons, they were ironically placed in cells adjacent to Morris, a fateful proximity that would prove instrumental in their legendary undertaking. Their desperation fueled the resolve to try the impossible. A fourth inmate, Alan West, was also part of the initial conspiracy. West had a history of violent crime and was considered a hardened criminal. He was instrumental in the early stages of the plan, helping to gather tools and offering insights into the prison structure. Crucially, West was housed in cell block B, like the others, and his cell was also adjacent to the utility corridor. However, his story took a different turn on the night of the escape. His inability to fully participate would later make him the key informant, providing invaluable details to the FBI about the meticulous preparations and the layout of the escape route. The initial spark for the escape plan was ignited by a seemingly innocuous feature of Alcatraz's design, an unguarded utility corridor that ran behind the cells in cell block B. This corridor housed pipes and other infrastructure, accessible only through a small, rusted ventilation grill at the back of each cell. Morris, with his keen observational skills, recognized this as a potential Achilles heel. He understood that if they could enlarge these grills and slip into the corridor unnoticed, they would gain access to an internal network of pipes, shafts, and, eventually, the roof. It was an audacious thought, but it was grounded in a tangible vulnerability. For nearly 6 months, Morris and the Anglin brothers engaged in a clandestine operation, meticulously chipping away at the concrete and mortar around their ventilation grills. The work was painstaking, dangerous, and had to be performed under the constant threat of discovery. They worked during the prison's music hour, using the loud accordion music and other instruments to mask the sounds of their efforts. They fashioned makeshift tools, hiding their progress with false walls and painted cardboard grills that blended seamlessly with the existing structure. Every piece of debris had to be carefully removed and concealed, often flushed down toilets or hidden in pockets until it could be discarded. The tools used for the escape were as ingenious as the plan itself. Far from professional equipment, the inmates relied on everyday items, painstakingly adapted for their illicit purpose. Spoons, pilfered from the mess hall, were sharpened and used to chip away at the damp, salt-weakened concrete. Perhaps the most inventive tool was a drill fashioned from the motor of an old, discarded vacuum cleaner. This crude device allowed them to bore into the wall with greater efficiency, significantly accelerating their progress. Their resourcefulness under extreme constraints showcased a remarkable determination to achieve their impossible goal. Once through the vents, the utility corridor became their secret workshop. This narrow, dark space was where the true scope of their ambition took shape. Here, they meticulously assembled the components of their escape. They collected a trove of materials, more than 50 discarded raincoats, which would become the raw material for their raft and life vests. They also found pipes, tools, and other discarded items that could be repurposed. The corridor provided a secluded environment where they could work unobserved for hours, a stark contrast to the constant scrutiny within their cells. It was their sanctuary of defiance. To buy themselves time after their escape, the inmates crafted incredibly realistic dummy heads. These macabre creations were designed to fool guards during routine night checks, making it appear as if the men were still asleep in their beds. The heads were fashioned from a mixture of soap, toilet paper, and cement dust, then painted with flesh tones. Crucially, human hair, collected from the barbershop, was painstakingly glued onto the dummies to add a chilling realism. These papier-mâché heads would later become iconic symbols of the escape, a testament to the ingenuity and foresight of the escapees. The night of June 11, 1962, was chosen for the escape. The conditions seemed favorable: a dark night, potentially less vigilant guards, and the element of surprise. At approximately 9:30 p.m., the three men, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, initiated the final phase of their plan. They carefully removed the fake grills, slipped through their enlarged openings, and entered the utility corridor. Alan West, however, struggled to remove his grill, which had been cemented in place. Despite frantic efforts, he was left behind, unable to join his accomplices in their desperate bid for freedom. The escape was now truly in motion. Once inside the narrow, dark utility corridor, the men made their way towards the cell block's rear. This was a critical juncture. They navigated a maze of pipes and obstructions, moving cautiously to avoid making any noise that could alert the guards patrolling the main cell blocks. Their destination was a large, unguarded ventilation shaft at the end of the corridor, which they had previously identified as their path to the roof. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old concrete, but the scent of freedom must have driven them onward. Every step was a gamble, every shadow a potential hiding place or a looming threat. Reaching the ventilation shaft, the escapees began a perilous climb up vertical pipes to the prison roof. This ascent was arduous and dangerous, made even more so by the darkness and the sheer height. Once on the roof, they had to traverse the expanse of the building, carefully avoiding searchlights and any potential guard patrols. Their next challenge was to descend a drainpipe on the prison's eastern side, a risky maneuver that required agility and nerves of steel. This descent brought them down to the shoreline, just feet from the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. The journey to the water's edge was complete. At the water's edge, their months of meticulous preparation culminated in the assembly of their escape craft. From the more than 50 stolen raincoats, they had fashioned a rudimentary inflatable raft and several life vests. The raincoats were meticulously glued together, inflated, and tested in secret within the utility corridor. This ingenious vessel, crude yet effective, represented their only chance of crossing the bay. It was a testament to their resourcefulness and determination, a flimsy membrane separating them from either freedom or a watery grave. The moment of truth had arrived. They launched their vessel into the dark, churning waters. Launching their fragile craft into the notoriously cold and turbulent waters of San Francisco Bay was the most dangerous part of their plan. The bay's currents, known to reach speeds of up to 7 to 9 knots, were a formidable adversary. The water temperature, hovering between 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, posed a severe risk of hypothermia, which could incapacitate a swimmer in minutes. Their initial target was likely Angel Island, a smaller landmass to the north, offering a stepping stone to the mainland. As they paddled into the darkness, the fate of Morris and the Anglin brothers hung precariously in the balance, at the mercy of the bay. The morning of June 12, 1962, dawned like any other at Alcatraz, until a routine bed check revealed the truth. At 7:15 a.m., a guard peered into Frank Morris's cell and, seeing his still form under the blankets, assumed his charge was asleep. Upon closer inspection, however, the grim reality became clear: the head protruding from the blanket was a dummy. The alarm was raised immediately. Within minutes, the entire prison was plunged into a state of chaos, as guards frantically checked the cells of the Anglin brothers and Alan West, confirming that 3 inmates were indeed gone. The myth of Alcatraz's invincibility was shattered. The discovery of the escape triggered one of the largest and most intensive manhunts in American history. The FBI immediately launched a full-scale investigation, deploying hundreds of agents to scour the San Francisco Bay Area. The Coast Guard mobilized boats and helicopters, relentlessly searching the treacherous waters and surrounding shorelines. Local law enforcement joined the effort, putting out alerts and conducting searches on land. Every lead, no matter how small, was pursued. The reputation of Alcatraz and the federal prison system was on the line. Failure to recapture the escapees would send a dangerous message across the nation's correctional facilities. Crucially, Alan West, the 4th conspirator who failed to escape, provided the FBI with invaluable details. After initially claiming he knew nothing, West eventually confessed his involvement, offering a comprehensive account of the entire escape plan. He described the months of meticulous preparation, the homemade tools, the dummy heads, and the construction of the raft. His detailed testimony confirmed the escapees' method and provided investigators with a roadmap of their intentions. West's cooperation became the backbone of the official narrative, explaining exactly how 3 men could seemingly vanish from America's most secure prison. Days after the escape, tangible evidence began to surface in the waters off Angel Island in further north. A paddle, believed to be from the escapees' raft, was found floating near the island. Shortly after, a rubber life vest, also made from raincoats, was discovered. Most significantly, a waterproof bag containing personal effects belonging to the Anglin brothers, including family photographs and letters, washed ashore. These findings confirmed that the men had indeed launched their craft into the bay and had likely made it some distance. However, none of the men were found, nor was the main body of the raft itself. Further strengthening the evidence of the escapees' ingenuity was the discovery of one of the dummy heads. Found floating near the shores of Angel Island, it was eerily realistic, having successfully fooled guards for hours. This finding validated Alan West's account and offered a chilling glimpse into the meticulous planning involved. Yet, despite these compelling discoveries, the question remained: where were the men? The recovered items suggested they had made it out into the bay, but their ultimate fate remained shrouded in mystery. The search intensified, but the vastness of the bay and the power of its currents made it a formidable task. Based on the lack of bodies, the frigid water temperatures, the powerful currents, and the recovered items, the official conclusion of the FBI investigation was that Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers had drowned. The San Francisco Bay was considered too treacherous for anyone to survive such an escape attempt, especially on a makeshift raft. The intense cold would have led to rapid hypothermia, while the strong tides would have quickly swept any bodies or remaining craft out to sea, making recovery nearly impossible. This became the accepted truth, a tragic end to a daring, yet ultimately futile, quest for freedom. The San Francisco Bay is not merely cold, it is notoriously unforgiving. The average water temperature in June hovers around a bone-chilling 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Exposure to such temperatures can lead to severe hypothermia in as little as 15 to 20 minutes, causing disorientation, loss of coordination, and eventually unconsciousness. Coupled with currents that could easily pull a weakened swimmer or a flimsy raft out to the Pacific Ocean, the odds of survival were astronomically low. The bay itself was Alcatraz's most potent natural barrier, a cold, dark, and relentless guardian that had, by all accounts, claimed many lives. Despite the official conclusion, questions lingered. Just 2 weeks after the escape, a car was stolen in Marin County, a town north of San Francisco, and the description of the driver resembled Frank Morris. While this lead was never conclusively linked to the escapees, it planted the first seed of doubt in the narrative of certain drowning. Could they have made it across the bay, evaded the initial dragnet, and somehow found a way to the mainland? This early report, though unsubstantiated, provided a tantalizing hint that perhaps the escapees had defied the odds and were still at large, fueling an enduring hope for their families. Over the years, the Anglin family received a series of postcards, allegedly from John and Clarence. These postcards, lacking postmarks and specific details, were often dismissed as hoaxes by authorities. However, to the family, they represented a thread of hope, a potential signal that their loved ones were still alive. The messages were vague, often just a few words, but the mere act of receiving them kept the mystery alive for the Anglin family. They clung to the possibility that these were subtle assurances, proof that their brothers had indeed survived the impossible and were living in the shadows. Further adding to the mystery was the inexplicable arrival of funeral flowers at the Anglin family home for several years after the escape. These flowers always arrived without a sender's name or any identifying card, simply a silent, annual tribute. The family interpreted this as a gesture from John and Clarence, a way for them to acknowledge their family's grief and show they were still alive without revealing their location. While authorities once again dismissed this as an elaborate trick, the consistent, anonymous delivery deepened the family's conviction that the brothers had not perished in the bay, but were instead carefully watching from afar. In another curious incident, years after the escape, a report surfaced of two men in a blue Chevrolet with Florida license plates asking for directions to Alfred Anglin's address. Alfred was a brother of John and Clarence. This sighting, though unconfirmed, added another layer to the narrative of potential survival. Why would two men, fitting the general description of the escapees, be seeking out their brother in Florida years later? Was it a genuine attempt to reconnect, or simply a case of mistaken identity? The FBI investigated, but like many leads, it ultimately led to no definitive answers, yet kept the embers of doubt glowing. Despite the official conclusion of drowning, the FBI's investigation into the Alcatraz escape remained open for 17 years. This prolonged inquiry generated a staggering 1,700 pages of reports and involved over 2,500 interviews. Every tip, every rumor, and every piece of potential evidence was meticulously followed up. While the official stance remained unchanged, the sheer volume of investigative work underscored the enduring uncertainty surrounding the case. It highlighted the FBI's commitment to leaving no stone unturned, even in the face of dwindling leads, an acknowledgement of the profound mystery at the heart of the escape. Even after the FBI closed its active investigation in 1979, the case was transferred to the U.S. Marshals Service, where it remains an active investigation to this day. This means that, officially, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin are still wanted fugitives, and active warrants for their arrest persist. The Marshals Service maintains that until definitive proof of their deaths is found, the possibility of their survival cannot be entirely dismissed. This commitment ensures that the story of the Alcatraz escape continues to evolve, with new leads periodically emerging, keeping the tantalizing prospect of their survival alive for another generation. In 2013, a letter purportedly written by John Anglin was sent to the San Francisco Police Department. The letter, chillingly authentic in its tone, claimed, "I am John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I'm 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." It further stated that Frank Morris had died in 2008 and Clarence Anglin in 2011, and offered to reveal his location in exchange for a guaranteed prison sentence of no more than 1 year and medical attention. This letter reignited the debate with unprecedented intensity. Forensic analysis of the 2013 letter by the FBI proved inconclusive. While some experts noted similarities between the handwriting in the letter and known samples of John Anglin's script, there was not enough evidence to definitively confirm its authenticity. The lack of a clear fingerprint match or irrefutable DNA evidence left investigators in a quandary. Was it a genuine confession from an aging escapee, seeking a peaceful end to his life, or an elaborate hoax designed to stir up the legend? The inconclusive results only served to deepen the mystery, offering neither closure nor definitive proof of survival. In 2015, a new piece of compelling evidence emerged from the Anglin family. David Widner, the nephew of John and Clarence Anglin, presented a photograph taken in Brazil in 1975. The image allegedly showed his uncles, John and Clarence, standing by a car on a rural roadside. This was the first concrete visual evidence ever presented that suggested the brothers had not only survived but had established new lives abroad. The photo, though decades old, offered a powerful, visual challenge to the official drowning narrative, breathing new life into the possibility of their successful escape. The photograph was subsequently analyzed by Dutch forensic experts, who compared the facial features of the men in the photo to known images of John and Clarence Anglin. Their conclusion was striking: it was highly likely that the men in the 1975 Brazil photo were indeed the Anglin brothers. This independent, scientific assessment lent significant credibility to the family's claim and suggested that the official narrative of drowning might be flawed. The forensic findings were a monumental turning point, transforming a family legend into a credible theory, demanding a re-evaluation of the escapees' ultimate fate. Further scientific investigation into the bay's currents and tides added another layer to the survival theory. A study conducted by scientists at the Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands, based on the specific tidal patterns of June 12, 1962, concluded that a raft launched at midnight could indeed have reached Horseshoe Bay. This location, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge, offered a plausible landing spot for the escapees. The simulation contradicted earlier assumptions about the bay's currents always pulling outwards to the Pacific, demonstrating that an inland landing was entirely feasible under specific conditions. The bay might not have been as inescapable as once believed. More than 6 decades after the daring escape, the fate of Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin remains one of America's most captivating cold cases. Despite the compelling evidence suggesting their survival, the cryptic letter, the Brazil photograph, and the scientific analysis of tidal currents, no definitive proof has ever surfaced to confirm they lived long, free lives. The U.S. Marshal Service continues to pursue leads, and the warrants for their arrest remain active. The mystery persists, a testament to the human desire for freedom and the unbreakable spirit of those who refuse to be contained, even by the rock itself. The Alcatraz escape stands as a powerful symbol of defiance against overwhelming odds. It challenged the very notion of an impenetrable prison and captured the public imagination in a way few other criminal acts have. Whether Morris and the Anglin brothers ultimately survived or succumbed to the bay's cold embrace, their meticulously planned and brilliantly executed escape remains a masterclass in ingenuity and perseverance. Their story continues to inspire countless books, films, and documentaries, ensuring that the legend of the men who vanished from the rock will forever echo through history, a chilling reminder that even the most secure fortresses can be breached.